3, 2, 1, go!
Well, Saturday morning, while many of you were still sleeping, and that usually is what I'm doing at 7 in the morning, hundreds were already up and at it running in the Walk-Ons Independence Bowl Marathon and Half Marathon. Total dedication, aside from getting up that early, but all the training these runners put themselves through long before the starting pistol fires and their race for the best possible time begins. One of those runners is someone relatively new to the sport who only began running 2 years ago. And earlier this year, while running a half marathon, time-wise, she was way off her mark, finishing about 15 minutes slower than usual. But it wasn't because she wasn't prepared. It was because she was involved in a completely different race against time, a race to save a life. The sun had hardly lifted across Shreveport Saturday morning.
I'm really excited. It's going to be hot and sweaty, but it's going to be fun.
When newbie runner Esther Holloway darted off, running in only her fourth ever half marathon, 13.1 miles through the historic Southern Hills neighborhood for the Walk-Ons Independence Bowl Half Marathon. Yes, you're racing other runners in your age class, but it's also a personal race against time.
You know, my brother and my sister-in-law run, and they just encouraged me to join in.
For this Shreveport doctor, admittingly, running first began as a way to get in shape and to lead by example.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. If you'll just put that on his chart for me.
We should kind of expect the doctor telling us to make healthier choices to do the same, right? Right.
Looking pretty good.
Esther's choice, running. And her choice of running in the Rock and Roll Half Marathon in Dallas back in March would unknowingly prove to be about the healthiest choice she could ever make.
Now, I believe we all have our such a time as this, and we all have our moments.
A choice, a moment that perhaps was just meant to be.
Maybe that was one of the reasons God put me here and put me in the job that I'm in. The road's a little bumpy.
It's a moment she continues to run with, heavy on her heart and mind, even 6 months later. March 25th in Dallas, here's a look at Esther approaching the finish line, but there's clearly a problem. First of all,
she was a good 15 minutes late for the finish.
Esther's fiance, Paul Lawson, says she was way off her usual pace.
I thought maybe something had happened. When she finally showed up, you could see she had mud on her front of her shoes, she had mud on her knees.
Something beyond his wildest imagination had happened, just when Esther found herself on the home stretch.
I'm almost home. I'm looking at my watch. I'm thinking, okay, if I stay on track, I can make the time I'm trying to make.
And found herself in an all-new race against time.
So I had passed mile marker 11 and turned the corner and went down the street, and then here's this young lady lying on the side of the road with some people standing over her. That was completely unexpected. I don't see any major issues here.
For a doctor, even when you're racing the clock, you're never off the clock.
And I said, I'm a doctor, can I help? And they said, yes, please.
Lying on the ground, barely conscious, beginning to have seizures, was a young runner from Dallas.
I asked her what her name was. She said Bailey.
27-year-old Bailey Adam.
And I could tell right away that this young lady was really in trouble.
But trouble quickly gave way to dire as more runners stopped, an OBGYN and a nurse, and then a police officer who had been watching the race.
So he was able to call and say, hey, this person's having a seizure, we really need some help. About that time, she turned blue and stopped breathing and had no pulse. So the police officer starts doing chest compressions. I started doing some rescue breathing. She was not breathing, she had no pulse. Things were not looking good.
Esther's race against time to get Bailey breathing again had hit 60 seconds.
I remember just saying, come on, Bailey, come on.
And counting.
And then all of a sudden, she takes this big breath and turns pink and starts breathing again.
Moments later, medics arrive on scene and rush Bailey to the hospital.
We just all had this, oh my God, that just happened. Oh my goodness, what in the world?
Esther and the other runners who had stopped slowly gathered their things, their senses, and began walking and eventually running to the finish line.
All I could think about was, dear Lord, I hope she lives, and I hope she makes it.
Days would pass. Esther's training for her next race against time began again when news finally made its way through word of mouth.
Bailey Adam was just shy of the Rock and Roll Dallas half marathon finish line when she collapsed.
Seems I fell in mud because I was covered in mud.
Dallas TV media began reporting on the miraculous recovery of a runner named Bailey.
I don't remember too much about it, but when I woke up, I had a lot of loving eyes.
Who had no idea her heart condition was as life-threatening as it was.
Hello?
Marshall.
Bailey was reunited with hospital staff and paramedics who helped save her life. But as Dallas CBS reported, in the days following Bailey's release from the hospital,
Missing from this group of heroes, the stranger who started CPR on her before EMS arrived.
a hero and the unknown angel.
All agree it was that crucial act from a total stranger that made the difference.
I thank you for showing up that day.
Her name's Esther just takes in stride.
I just really feel like he put us there at that moment for a reason.
As aggressive as the Dallas media was in their search of that mysterious runner earlier this year, they had no idea she was from Shreveport, and that's when we began our search for Bailey Adam. And after reaching out to and talking to Bailey's parents, that's when I realized Bailey has been left with a lot more than just physical and medical scars since that close call back in March.
I hope they have no problems with hugs, because I'm gonna hug and hold on tight. And
Sadly, for now, that hug will have to wait. Bailey's mother, Charlotte, tells me at times it can be a daily struggle for Bailey. Not just the medical recovery, but emotionally coming to grips with losing 3 days of your life, running a race one moment, and waking in a hospital the next. So while a reunion is on hold for now,
I really thank them for saving Bailey's life, because had they not been there, I don't think she'd be here.
the family's heartfelt appreciation is evident.
After they've been through a life-threatening event, I'm sure that emotionally it's been very hard on her and her family to think that she was literally dead for a minute.
Just as evident, Esther's appreciation for running one of the worst times to date, what turned into a life and death race against time.
For someone to pass out in a race and have 2 doctors, a nurse, and a police officer who has the radio and can call for help right there at that moment, that's just nothing but God. I really believe that. We were sent.
Bailey was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. In a nutshell, it's when the heart has a hard time pumping blood, and it often goes undiagnosed. Bailey is doing better and has even returned to work. By the way, the Indy Bowl half marathon, Esther ran her best time yet in half marathon and finished 9th in her age group. So Bailey getting better and Esther getting better on the
with her time, huh?
her
Personal
times.
best. Good for Esther being there. Thank goodness she was there at the right time.
And like she pointed out, just the fact that she was a doctor, another runner who was right there, a doctor, a nurse, and then an officer that Dallas ISD officer, Officer Buster, I love his name. We were hoping for a big reunion, but again, we're going to wait and be patient, and hopefully Bailey will be up to it. It's just been a lot of microphones, a lot of cameras, and a lot of recovery emotionally as well. So it's still a bit to go.
Oh, I think it will happen in her own time.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Deb. She's a mother on a mission to help police find the man